All right, good afternoon everyone and welcome to our Ageless Movement channel. My name is Scott Lohman.
And my name is Sadie Poignac.
Okay, so we are basically corrective exercise instructors. I teach adaptive PE and work with clients. Same?
I mostly work one-on-one with clients, and then I teach a few classes throughout the Bay Area Peninsula.
Yeah, we both work in the Bay Area Peninsula. I work in Redwood City. She works all over the Bay Area. I used to do that too when I worked for Foothill College. Okay, so what's on your radar today? What do you want to talk about?
Well, this particular podcast, we've decided that we wanted to talk about Dr. Dement, which Scott has actually worked with in an exercise class. So because he recently passed away, I believe June 17th at Stanford, or in the Stanford area, we thought that this would be a good time to talk about his work.
Yeah, definitely. So if there's any of you out there, excuse me, that are not familiar with Dr. Dement, he is the godfather of sleep study. Before him, people weren't really researching sleep. There were people that did, but my point is he directly related it to health. And one of the biggest things that I remember him telling me, and of course I read about it in his book, was I don't remember the statistic exactly. I should know this, but I may be off a little bit. But it was something like 25 or 35% of the people before his sleep studies were erroneously being diagnosed as having heart disease, when in fact they had sleep apnea. And sleep apnea, having lack of oxygen when you sleep can actually lead to heart disease. And that was probably the biggest challenge for him, was convincing cardiologists all over the Bay Area to actually listen to what his research was showing. And now it's very common. If a doctor suspects that you have sleep apnea, the first thing they do is send you into a sleep study. And we all have Dr. Dement to thank for that.
Okay, so we're going to start off with Scott. Tell us about his book.
So his book's pretty interesting. I read it several years ago. I think I read it in 2005 or 2006. Now that's when I first met Dr. Dement. I was teaching an adaptive PE class, a strength training class at Cubberley, which is it was a high school throughout the 70s into the early 80s, and it was closed down. And Foothill at the time, when I was teaching in the adaptive PE program as adjunct faculty, we taught all over the Bay Area. Any place, any site that was available that had a demand for any type of corrective exercise or adaptive physical education, we would go there and we would teach. So I taught there for several years. In fact, I taught for Foothill for over 10 years. And of course, we all got laid off around 2008 when the Great Recession hit, and there hasn't been a real demand for the community colleges to bring back adaptive physical education. So we've all pretty much operated on our own as nonprofits, and that's what I do. That's the capacity in which I work today. So that's why, and I'm just giving you that brief background on that, because that's when I first met Dr. Dement. Now he came there and took my class because he had back pain and he was looking to get some relief from it. Now, he was definitely a guy that obviously believed in exercise, because his book focused on the importance of exercise and eating a proper diet. But he didn't really strike me as a guy who exercised regularly throughout his whole entire life. He probably had lulls or moments where he didn't, but he probably ate pretty well and definitely made sleep a #1 priority. So anyway, when I first started working with him, I didn't know who he was. And then one day, he saw me wearing a Stanford football shirt like I do all the time. And he says, "Oh yeah, I'm a faculty member at Stanford." "Oh yeah, what do you teach?" And he's like, "Oh, I teach," he says, "I research sleep, but I teach all kinds of classes about sleep." And he's like, "I'll get you one of my books and I'll give it to you." And man, I gotta tell you, that book was eye-opening. Now, I'll say this, I had read, I'm not gonna say a lot of books on sleep before, but I definitely read bits and pieces of a lot of people's works on sleep. And he pretty much dispelled a lot of the myths that you hear about sleep. Like, for instance, you hear this all the time from people that, it's not good to nap during the day. Now, Dr. Dement, basically, he makes it very simple. And if you have not read his book, it's called The Promise of Sleep. And you should check it out. It's definitely a good read, and you'll learn a lot that you can apply to your own life. Now, what he basically breaks it down very simply. He says, imagine a bank. You either have a deficit or you have, what do they call that? A profit? You're either in the black or you're in the red, for lack of better words here. And he would say that
it's a reserve.
It's a reserve, correct. So let's say, for instance, I only got 5 hours sleep last night, and my body needs 8 hours. Then I would have a 3-hour deficit when I wake up the next day. Now, at some point during the day, I'm going to feel very tired. Now, what Dr. Dement said is if you sleep for half an hour, it will help cut into your sleep deficit. So if you're the type of person that maybe sleeps 4 hours and then you have to wake up, but you could sleep another 4 hours at another time, he's saying that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I've met a lot of people like that. And there's a lot of reasons why people won't sleep well. There's a lot of, obviously biochemistry reasons why somebody won't sleep well. Then there's other reasons, like in my case, sometimes I have to wake up earlier than I want to because the muscles in my neck get very stiff. And you got to remember, the very back of your head here is the vagus nerve. When that vagus nerve gets affected, you're going to experience what I would call migraine-like symptoms, meaning nausea, dizziness, just a feeling like you're just sick, but you're not really sick. I've experienced that many times, and that's a different topic that we can broach in the future about how to take care of your muscle fascia, which I do, and it's something I do before I go to bed at night to help counteract that. But what I'm trying to get across here, without being so wordy, is the fact that there are many factors that will affect people's sleep, and he talks about that in the book. Age, of course, diet, not maintaining a proper sleep schedule, just not living a very healthy life, alcohol, caffeine. Now, a lot of people laugh at me because I never drank coffee in my life. I never drank alcohol. And I never did any illicit drugs. Okay, I tried weed when I was 5 years old one time. That was pretty much the only drug I've ever done. And I never liked the taste of alcohol. And I never liked what I saw the effects of alcohol were on people. So I always made a point not to drink. Now, I did drink some coffee when I was, in middle school. And then I had a bad experience one day with it where I felt kind of nervous and shaky. And I never touched it again. Oh, occasionally somebody would be like, oh, try this coffee. And I'll try it. And it's really good, some of it. But I don't depend on it. I don't wake up in the morning, where's my coffee? That's not me. And that's most Americans, actually. And he's saying, it affects your adrenal response by drinking coffee. And there's a lot of research and a lot of studies showing that it can cause adrenal strain. What is that called again?
Adrenal stress.
Adrenal stress, yes. It can be one factor. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying it's the sole cause. Overtraining can be a sole cause or a primary cause. A lot of things can affect adrenal stress. Stress can. Just being nervous all the time. Having too much norepinephrine in your body. Okay.
So going back to the whole sleep deficit,
Yeah.
So for me, like what was impactful in talking to Scott about this is I used to have a corporate job and my sleep cycle was never great. I was most likely in the deficit for all the way up into like my mid-30s because I was constantly having to be at work at a certain time, and in order to deload, I would literally go out probably Wednesday through Sunday, and so I could function off of 4 hours of sleep in that time period.
That's crazy.
And then once I decided, that my corporate life was probably going to kill me, as my doctor was so kind to ask me, have I thought about giving up my job? because she tried to prescribe pills to me, and I mean for other things, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't want.
Like blood pressure meds and things like that?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, you know what, I got to go find a way to take care of this myself. And so, you know, at some point in time in my training, I came across heart rate variability. So that kind of helped me get in touch with my body and what was going on. And one of the best ways to like basically increase my recovery every morning was to make sure I had enough sleep. Like that's almost the first thing that I usually tackle before I start digging into, you know, is it stress? I really have to think about like what's going on in my life that could be causing stress, because for me, I'm very good at saying that there's nothing that is stressful, because I like to think everything's fine, but it really isn't. And I can almost pinpoint when I go through my HRV where stress is happening, because it's to the day of getting an email or something. And then all the times that I can't, it pretty much is the sleep part. So like once I quit my job, what was the first thing that happened?
Well, okay. So there's a lot going on here. When you worked in corporate before you met me, you had just started to exercise. You got into kettlebell training.
I tried before.
Actually, okay.
I actually tried working out. That's how we met.
Yeah, that's the first time we met. Yeah.
But it was hardcore training. I mean, like strictly kettlebells, a whole lot of weight, a whole lot of fatigue on the body. I did not start until 2010.
Yeah, okay. So then when you started exercising, right, that definitely increased the demand for sleep, because now not only do you have to recover from the day, from the mental stress of your job, but then now you got the physical stress of training that you have to recover from. And then that probably ushered in the desire for sleep, because you felt like, oh man, I'm really tired now.
So for me, like I feel like I could tell the difference.
Yeah.
So I know at the time periods when I would just start working out, I would always want to take a nap. So there is that factor in it. But once I quit my job, it was a whole different feeling. It was more relief.
Yeah, you slept a lot better, I noticed.
Right. So there's a difference. Me constantly sleeping I really had to build up what I lost those 35 plus years before of constantly being on the go. It's a different feeling. I could be satisfied with my workout, taking a nap, and felt okay. But once I quit my job, it was a whole different level, because now I couldn't get enough. So that, I mean, it felt different.
Yeah, so you definitely was more natural, and you definitely felt the need for sleep.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I first met you, she took my class. This was in 2010. And I remember it's 8:30 at night or something like that. After class ends, it was a night class I was teaching. I'm like, God, what are you about to do? And she's telling me she's going to go to a club. And it's like it was a Thursday night. And I'm like, really? You're going to go to a club now? Aren't you going to eat dinner first now?
I'll eat on the way.
So I gave you some food to eat, right?
Yeah. So he gave me like nuts and I think a couple
dark
things
chocolate?
of cereal.
Oh,
no, it was
okay.
cereal. And I literally just head on into the club, made sure I had enough food so that I could drink. Well, I technically didn't have enough food, but I made sure there was something in my stomach to help with the alcohol, because I'm not that big. So alcohol would do me in, and on top of it, like I'd have to drive home. So I'd have to manage a lot of things to make sure that I would be okay by the end of the night.
Yeah, definitely.
And then at work the next morning, Friday, just in time to wrap things up for the week so that people could have sales and money in the bank for when I got back in on Monday.
Definitely. So what you can see is a good example of somebody who made a shift in their lifestyle choices and embraced exercise, embraced better nutrition, and de-stressing. And all of this is included in Dr. Dement's book. I know I'm kind of going full circle here, but you know, I can't say enough about what he did for the health of the world with his research. And he was very inclusive at Stanford. He got people, you know, he really gave a lot of people opportunity to be in the healthcare field, in the sleep study and sleep research field. And you know, you should really, there's a video on YouTube about that basically is a tribute to his life at Stanford, and it pretty much sums everything up a lot better than what I can do. But I can tell you, you know, working with him, what I really like about him, he was very three-dimensional in what you can talk to him about, and he was very smart. You know, you could talk sports with the guy, you could talk politics with the guy, you could talk, you know, economics. There was literally no subject that man didn't have some knowledge about. And he wasn't one of these like really rigid thinkers where, you know, this is how it is and that's it. He's very open-minded. And I felt like I learned a lot from him. And I'll say even he learned a lot from me because he was very open-minded. I taught him how to strengthen his core, how to strengthen his posterior chain, how to strengthen, improve his hip mobility and his hamstrings flexibility. And just those things alone that I mentioned, I mean, we're not talking elite level of fitness here. We're talking just some pretty basic stuff. Stretch your hamstrings out, do some pelvic bridging, do some bird dog, you know, do some rotational work, do some hip mobility stuff, some strengthening of the butt and hamstrings. I don't know, 15, 20-minute workout, and he felt a lot better. And he was very thankful for that because I think he'd been battling back pain for several years. And I think he didn't really realize how he could attack this more from a movement standpoint as opposed to, I don't know, anti-inflammatories or however else he was treating it before. You know, and I have to say, back in 2005, massage therapy was not where it is today. That would have been another avenue I would have encouraged if I was working with him today. I would have encouraged him to get some soft tissue work done that would have really created relief as well. But, you know, it's just amazing how much things have changed in terms of training, in terms of recovery, in terms of taking care of your muscle fascia. In just the last 10, 15 years, it's dramatic.
So on that note, also, Dr. Dement almost made it to his 92nd birthday.
Yeah.
So, you know, taking care of your body and trying to live a long, healthy life is pretty much why we wanted to go down this route and just talk about how we would like to see, you know, a lot of the people that we work with age well as they get older. And really, it's age less and move more, because that's, I think, the hardest thing for us as corrective exercise people is trying to get people, we try to help them move with less pain so that they can continue moving. I mean, and for us, it's so that we can continue lifting for as long as we possibly can.
Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, like for me, I'm hoping to be able to lift to pretty much close till I'm 80 in some shape or form. So that's pretty much where...
Well, I mean, the way I look at it, if you're rebuilding tissue every day, which you are when you're alive, you can improve. If there's not some underlying medical condition or disease that's preventing you from recovering from a workout, you can work out. I mean, yeah, at 80, you're not going to be as strong as you were when you were 40, but that's okay. You can still be pretty strong. I've seen some very strong 80-year-olds, and you just can imagine what they were like when they were 30 or 35.
But that's the thing. There are a lot of people who started in their 70s.
Yeah, and made a lot of gains, yeah.
So, I mean, for us, it's just continuing what we're doing. I mean, I know I will have to scale down a little, but, you know, it's a plan, it's a working plan, and I'm constantly thinking about it. It's not something that I'm just going to pick up tomorrow. For me, it's all about developing skills now so that when I get older and it's harder to learn skills, I'm hoping that my body remembers something rather than trying to learn something completely new and getting discouraged that I can't do something because this movement is too complicated, or my brain's not allowing me to mirror something that's either on the television or the person in front of me. So right now, I mean, I guess for me, I'm building up a different type of bank along with my sleep, still working on the sleep part because it's never easy and it fluctuates when things are good and then they go bad. But, you know, building up that movement bank also, or movement library.
You know, I look at it like an investment in yourself. For many of you out there, you're probably very successful in your careers. You've invested well. You're going to be able to retire at a reasonable age. Well, it's the same thing with fitness and health. You just need to invest in yourself. And it doesn't have to be a major, intense investment. I mean, gosh, if you exercise 3 days a week for 35 or 40 minutes, you are dramatically reducing your risks for heart disease, for cancer, for pretty much every abnormality that can happen to you that would be part of the aging process. Because you have to understand something. It isn't so much age that leads to your decline. It's all the choices you make while you age that really lead to your decline. You can definitely build muscle. You definitely can improve your cardiovascular fitness. You can improve your mobility as you get older. There's no reason to think that everything, your performance is just going to completely flatten out. I'm 50 years old and I recovered from a very serious patellar tendon rupture in my left knee. I couldn't walk for 3 months. And now I'm back to deadlifting over 300 pounds for reps. It can be done. You know, and even my doctor gave me the old man talk. I showed him. Anyway, anything else you want to add?
Nope, that's everything.
All right, that was our first podcast. Please check us out. I'll point to the screen here. Ageless Movement, it's our YouTube channel. If you like the video, please like it and subscribe. We're going to have more content for you in the future, okay? And hopefully stuff that you can incorporate in your own life, all right? So, all right, like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you.